Hey, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio. Analog mixing consoles are a great thing to have in your studio, whether it's for a bank of preamps or for more flexibility in building monitor mixes in the analog domain without taxing your CPU. In this video, I'm going to explore a little bit more about tracking with an analog console. So I've used the Soundtracs Topaz in these examples. So check it out. This is the Soundtracs Topaz recording console. This console is a great example. This is an inline console design, and it is very similar to something like a Mackie 8 bus or a Soundcraft Ghost. The Allen and Heath System 8 that I've made a lot of videos about is the other type of studio or recording console design, and that would be a split design. On an inline design like this Topaz or the Mackie 8 bus or the Soundcraft Ghost, the tape return channels are embedded into the main channel strips, and this one they're labeled monitor, and these are the monitor or tape returns, whereas the top gain knob here is for the line input or the microphone input. On a split design console, these tape returns are usually over above the subgroups in the master section somewhere. If you're wondering why recording consoles have these tape returns embedded into the channels and why not just use the main channels when you're recording to hear what's being recorded, the answer to that is for independence, so that your level 2 tape back in the day or into the audio interface now doesn't change. The levels don't change when you're putting together a headphone mix for the client or for yourself in the control room. You have the independence of the tape return level controls to control either the signal that's being recorded or going through the tape machine or the signals that are already on the tape. Usually your signal coming out of the console to the tape machine or to the audio interfaces is going to come from one of two places, either from the individual channel direct out if you only want to record what's on that channel, or from a subgroup if you want to combine various channels on the console to only a certain number of tracks on the tape machine or the audio interface digital audio workstation software. So on a recording console, you have the independence of the main channels and the tape returns. So you can use the tape returns to build your control room mix or your client mix, but you can also use the aux sends, and you can feed the aux sends from the tape returns instead of the main channels, or you can feed them from the main channels in the case of the singer who wants to hear the live feed. But usually when you're dealing with a tape machine or an audio interface that's passing the input signal straight to the output, you're not going to have any latency on these tape returns either. So for independence reasons, it's a great idea to use the tape returns on your console. These days, with the ability to mix different things together inside your DAW, you can send out individual mixes from different outputs on the audio interface to any of these tape returns. Then you can send those to individual aux sends to create several different headphone mixes in the studio. Make sure you get the manual for your individual console, and that will tell you a lot more about how to do some of these things on your individual console. A lot of this can be done with consoles that are not recording consoles specifically. You just don't have the benefit of the tape returns. There are ways to work with other consoles when you're tracking with a console. It just, you have to get a little bit more creative with that if you don't have a separate set of tape returns. So a recording console in today's DAW-based studio is still a great investment because of all the flexibility that you get with these tape returns and aux sends in the analog world. So you can take independent headphone mixes that you've made in the box, send them out to separate tape returns on the console, and then do all kinds of different things with them from there, so that you can create different custom mixes and headphone mixes for the control room and each musician even more easily and with more flexibility. On a recording console like this, your signal flow is going to come from the gain here at the top of the channel. Now on this one, there's not a switch between mic and line, but on some consoles you'll actually have a switch. So if you're using a microphone, obviously you want it in the mic position. If you're using a line input, you want it in the line position. So from there, it goes through the EQ. You can take splits off of it for effects and headphone mixes directly from the actual recording channel if you prefer to do it that way. I usually would take my aux sends from the monitor channel when I'm actually tracking. Then it's going to come down through the fader, and from the fader it goes to the direct out. But it can also be sent to the subgroups over there if you would like to combine different things. This console has a floating bus architecture, so for example on channel 10, if I don't want the direct output of channel 10 to go to the output of this channel, I can also change it to be the output of bus 2 if I wanted to combine some things using subgroups. So from the fader, either the direct output or the subgroup would go into the input of your audio interface or your tape machine if you still have an analog machine or a modular digital multitrack like an ADAT. Then of course the signal that's going out to the recording device will be coming back on the tape return or monitor input of that channel so that you can hear it without affecting the level going to the recording device. So here are the inputs and outputs on the back of the Soundtracs Topaz console for an example. You have a mic input, line input, an insert point to insert inline processing on just that channel. See my other video about mixing with an analog console for more clarification on that. Then you have the monitor or tape in and the tape out. So in a basic sense, you would have the tape output connected to the input of a tape machine or an audio interface when you're tracking with an analog console, especially an analog recording console. If you don't have a recording console, a lot of times you'll still have a direct output on the channel. So if you're just wanting to record what's on that individual channel to an individual interface input, you would use the direct output or tape output. On this console, this tape output can become a bus output. So this output here on channel 4 would become bus 4 if I pressed the bus 4 switch on the top of the channel. So all of my inputs and outputs for my interface would just be connected here. Although I could use the subgroup outputs and therefore be able to combine multiple sources from different channels on the console, send them to one output and record them into one input on the interface, or on two if it's stereo material. Even when you're used to building a headphone mix in your digital audio workstation software and sending it to a headphone amp, you can gain additional flexibility by using the tape inputs on an analog mixing console. It also means less patching in a lot of ways, since the console has a lot of routing that you can use in particular for headphone mixes or for monitor effects like reverb. You're not actually recording the reverb, but you want to add some reverb to the headphone mix. Analog consoles are a great way to do that using the auxiliary sends. If you're thinking about picking up an analog mixing console of any kind, make sure to get the manual and read the manual so you understand all the functions and features of your particular board. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I appreciate everyone watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Twin Creek Audio YouTube channel if you have not done so already, as well as checking the links in the video description. I usually will leave links to other videos that will be helpful and relate to this video, as well as links that help support this channel. So check that out, and I hope everyone out there has an excellent and wonderful day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond. Whatever it is you're having, have a good one. Thanks for watching.